Welcome to Comfort Zone, a podcast all about pushing your hosts, well, outside of their comfort zone. I'm Christopher Lawley, and each week I am joined by two incredible people, but it may not be the people you think. First up, as always, is Mr. Matt Birchler. Matt, how are you doing?
Chris, I'm doing awesome today, and I'm super excited about our special guest.
Well, so Niléane is on vacation. She's on assignment this week, assignment being vacation. So we are joined by the one and only, the one true John Voorhees.
Hello. I am not Niléane. No, I am not. But I am here, filling in those very large shoes, and I'll do my best.
Nice. Well, we're excited to have you. We have some stuff to talk about.
Thank you.
Let's just get right into it. Matt, you're first up in the show doc, and I'm very excited about what you have for us this week because I have some thoughts on it.
I'm happy to start off. However, should we talk about democracy real quick?
Oh, you know what? That's right. Niléane wasn't here to remind me about democracy.
And it pains me to bring it up because you finally won.
Yes! Vindicated. I am selfish. I am wrong. I am right. I'm so sorry. I just made everyone listen to me singing. Maybe I'll bleep that, and that would be hilarious. I'm excited I won. I deserve that win. I did that.
That was a very good iPhone case, Chris. I
knew it the moment I saw it.
Thank you.
I was like, oh, there's no hope.
Yeah.
I probably spent well over 2 hours looking through Amazon and every website I possibly could for the most ridiculous iPhone case. And I have that here, and I don't have a phone that can go on it anymore, but we'll get to that. So, yeah.
There's something, Chris, there's something about Nicolas Cage, because one time on Ruminate, Rob Knight sent me a Nicolas Cage pillowcase. This was years ago now. It was 2017, and he sent me a pillowcase with none other than Nicolas Cage lounging with his shirt off on the pillowcase.
I wonder if it's the same image.
I was going to say, is it the same source image?
It might be.
Okay, so confession time. Especially like late 90s, mid 2000s, there was always like that Sunday afternoon basic TV movie. And it was always like one of three movies. It was like Speed, something else, and Con Air. I love Con Air. Like, unironically, just love that movie. Anytime that movie was on, we would watch it. Love that movie.
Chris, if we ever have this movie podcast, it's literally just going to be fighting. I don't know if we agree on anything.
I literally think it wouldn't end our friendship, but it would just be us constantly fighting.
It wouldn't help it. Yeah,
it really wouldn't. There would be we would have to have like a permanent bleep button because I just wouldn't have the time to put the amount of bleeps in the edit. Yeah, so one of these days we might do it. But yeah. Let's dive into this. Matt, you're first up in the show doc.
Yeah.
And you want to tell everyone what you got?
Yeah. So I'm trying to go on a string of bringing things that I love to the podcast, and this is not a new thing technically, but it might be the best upgrade I ever made to my desk setup ever. And it is a Thunderbolt dock. It's OWC's 11 port. I think it's their 11 port one. Thunderbolt dock. It's Thunderbolt 4, and it is so magical and has basically made. I still have a rat's nest under my desk, but it's under my desk and not on my desk anymore, and that's a huge, huge thing for me. So I can kind of go through what I use it for. I'm using literally every single port on it for something. If I need to add anything, I need to upgrade to one of those big towery ones that I know a lot of people like. But yeah, it's completely changed how I'm able to set up my desk and what I'm able to do with the numerous computers in my life. I have 4 separate computers that I can use to my desk, and everything works with everything with one cable, and that's awesome. Do you guys use Thunderbolt docks?
I have on and off. Not at the moment though, because I've got a Mac Studio, and I've been able between that and the Studio Display to plug everything that I'm currently using with that computer in. And I've got a separate setup for my MacBook Pro. So not at the moment, but I have used that particular dock, and it's a really good one. I really like it.
I kid you not, I just replaced this dock a few weeks ago, and I've been waiting to talk about the replacement for when I didn't really have anything going on. I got this one back in my M1 Max MacBook Pro days, the dark times when there wasn't a good video editor on the iPad and I had to use a MacBook. I had this one, and I actually had so much stuff plugged into it. I had this one, and then I took the other OWC one, which is like, it's just like 4 Thunderbolt ports. Nothing else, nothing exciting. It's just like 4 Thunderbolt ports, and I think there might be like a USB-A port or something on the front. And I had that one, I had them daisy chained together, so that way I just had one cable going into the MacBook Pro. And it was, I put all the slower peripherals on the 4-port one, and then all the faster ones on the main one, and then the main one was plugged into the MacBook. So I have used this one before, and I have one particular thing that bugs me about it that was absolutely just sent me wild, that I was just like, okay, I'm gonna bite the bullet. It's been bugging my ADHD riddled brain for a while now, and I replaced it with the CalDigit Thunderbolt 4 dock, which fixes this issue. But I can save that, or I can spill the beans and tell you what that issue was right now.
Okay, how about I'm going to go through the things I'm using it for, and I'm going to guess. I have a guess what drove you crazy about it, because it might drive me crazy too.
Yeah.
So it's one Thunderbolt cable comes out of this and goes into whatever computer I'm using. I have my personal MacBook Pro. I have my day job's MacBook Pro. I have an iPad sometimes. I use that over the last weekend. And I have a gaming PC. And those are all, whichever computer I'm using, I just unplug and plug in. And all these things just kind of work with whatever device. So the big thing is my display. I have a Sony InZone M9 4K monitor. Works great. Works with all the devices. So that's plugged in with one of the Thunderbolt ports. I have my keyboard. So, Chris, you're going to be happy with this. My Mode Envoy keyboard, which you pestered me to buy, and is actually my end game keyboard. So thank you. That's plugged in. That switches between devices nice and easily, even though it's wired. I have my Elgato game capture card thing. I'm not sure what those are called exactly, but that's plugged into. Yeah.
Do you have the 4K one that just came out a year ago? Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I have my audio interface plugged into that. I have my webcam plugged into it. I have a MagSafe charging stand plugged into it. And there's an SD card reader, which adds an SD card reader to my gaming PC and work laptop, which was an M1 MacBook Pro, which does not have a card reader, sadly. So I'm using every single port. Oh, and there's an Ethernet jack plugged into it too. So I've wired internet on all these devices. I love it. And it's kind of just sitting at the back of my desk right now with all the things plugged into it draped over the back of the desk. And then there's I'm guessing this is the thing that drove you crazy, Chris. The plug that goes to your computer comes out the front of the device.
And in the middle of it.
And in the middle, yes.
It's not off to the side, so you can neatly wrap it. It's coming out of the front. Mm-hmm. The cable that you don't need to unplug, like that, ever. Like that's the thing that should go on the back. Mm-hmm. You guess, you know me so well.
Yeah.
But then it's in the middle. And this thing, I know I shouldn't have let this bug me. I know it's irrational that I spent a couple $100 on a replacement for this thing because of this one dumb detail. But when I would sit down at my desk, it would bother me so much because I have this monitor stand. I have the Ugmonk Gather monitor stand. The Thunderbolt dock sat in the shelf part of it, and I would just have this Thunderbolt cord coming out, and it would kind of drape over my keyboard a little bit just because of the way my desk is laid out, and it would get in my way, and it bothered me so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally get it. I've thought about building a little like shelf to put under my desk where I could just slide in my 2 MacBooks, and then I could just move the plug like underneath the desk. But since it's coming out the front, I haven't figured out a way to do that. So I just have everything's tucked away, but then there's this one Thunderbolt wire that just worms its way across the desk and ruins the aesthetic for some people. It doesn't bother me that much, but it is annoying.
And remind me, isn't it a really short Thunderbolt cable that comes with it? I replaced it with one of Apple's long ones. Okay, confession time. I've bought like 3 of the 2-meter Apple Thunderbolt cables because they are so good. No other Thunderbolt cable comes near that. Like, they're not nearly as good, especially at that length.
Yeah. So it does come with a short one.
Yeah.
And because I was switching between devices probably more than most people, it was also it was a little more fragile, and I would sometimes just knock it with my arm or something, and the signal would go out for a second. So I too have the overpriced Apple cable that is gorgeous. It is actually wonderful and works great, and I forget what it cost. Don't remind me, but
yeah. It's too much. It's too much. I actually don't own any of those. I have some OWC 4K or Thunderbolt cables that I use. So I use a combination of the short ones and some longer ones, like 2-foot long ones, mostly for peripherals, not for connecting computers.
Yeah. I'm actually using the OWC, the original one that came in the box, is actually what I'm using to connect the dock to my monitor as its Thunderbolt input. But this is just awesome. And like, I grew up with like in the era of USB hubs where you would plug in like a USB thing and then there'd be like 4 USBs on the end of it, but like only 2 of them would work at a time because that's not really how USB 2 worked. But now like with Thunderbolt, you plug one thing in, you can daisy chain them like you were saying, and like it all just kind of works most of the time. And I think that's very cool.
Yeah, I love like Thunderbolt docks, amazing. When back in my IT days, I used to everyone that would get a laptop in my organization would also get it used to be a laptop dock, but then laptops started getting really thin, so they took away the thing that was on the bottom for the actual docking mechanism. So it was just port replicators at that point. But they were always, especially PC ones, looking at UHP, they were always very finicky. But I will say that the OWC one, very good. That one issue, it's just the dumbest design. I know I shouldn't get hung up on it, but I'm me, and I am going to get hung up on it. So, yeah, but I'm glad you like this thing.
I was looking up, I think they have a Thunderbolt 5 dock they're working on, but all of these seem to have... Really?
Yeah, there's very little. There's not really much going on with Thunderbolt 5 yet. I mean, that's one of the rumors, with the Mac Mini, is maybe it'll be Thunderbolt 5. I kind of think it's not going to be, just because there's almost nothing out there right now that has Thunderbolt 5. I think there's like one Razer laptop that I've seen, and that's about it.
And if it was Thunderbolt 5, it would be enabled by the M4 chip, right? So they would have put that on the iPad.
Yeah, you probably. Yeah. Thunderbolt 5 is going to be great when it comes, but it's going to be a while, I think.
Just a PSA, if you haven't gotten a Thunderbolt dock and you have a lot of accessories, I seriously recommend actually buying one, and I think a lot of people will be happy. So, yeah, that's it. Just bring in good vibes again.
That word. Matt. What were you going to do with you?
Daft Punk. These are all good things.
Yeah, vibes are good. Come on, Chris. You live in California. You've got vibes.
Oh, there's something about that word that drives me wild. I just vibes, don't like that. Well, I guess I have some vibes for you there. I said it. So we are recording today, Friday, the 20th. It is iPhone release day. But I got my review units early. I got them yesterday. I've had almost 24 hours with them. Not quite 24 hours with them just yet, but I have here the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 16 Plus. I also have the Apple Watch and AirPods, but I think we'll save those for a future episode because we don't want to go too long. But yeah, I have both units here. I have the white iPhone 16 Plus, which is actually kind of unfortunate because what I was looking at, it's the only color that doesn't take advantage of the new color process.
Yep.
So it doesn't. Everyone's falling over about how great all the other colors look, and this one I'm like, it's white. Okay. And then I have
the Ultramarine is particularly good, I think.
That's the one I really wanted, but you don't get to pick, so that's okay. And then I have the natural titanium 16 Pro. And overall, I it's new iPhones. It's very rare that there's something wrong with the new iPhone when they ship.
Right.
It's they're always going to be better than the previous one in certain ways. Some more better than others, and then there's this one. And this update, the 16 line to the 15, not much. I honestly, and I'd be curious to hear what you guys think, but I think it's been a very long time that year-over-year upgrades were actually meaningful outside of maybe tech reviewer circles. Like if I had a 15, I would just be totally fine sticking with the 15 if I wasn't, if I didn't do this for a living.
I think there's good times and bad times to buy in. Like, I think if you had a 14 and then the 15 came out, the titanium upgrade, the battery improvements, the 14 was really bad for battery. So that one to me felt like a more significant one. But yeah, you're right. For many years now, if you're not getting those massive leaps year over year, it's just iterating at this point, which is great. Like, they're incredible devices, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, not a huge year over year thing.
I'm hoping that the new batteries in this, the new way they're doing the batteries, actually makes a difference, and that it's just not all sucked up by Apple Intelligence ultimately, because, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because I've been on the betas for so long over the summer. My 15 Pro Max just has been killing me all summer long and that's, I think, probably mainly because of the betas. But I'd like to get to that spot now where I can just kind of take it easy and not have my battery draining down to less than 30% by 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I was having to charge my 15 Pro about around 4 or 5 every single day, especially over the summer, and it was annoying.
Yeah, it's not a big deal when you're at home and you're working at your desk. I mean, I work at home, so most of the time I can just throw my phone onto a charger. But when I was traveling over the summer, I was out and about in London for a week, and I ended up having to bring bricks with me and charge and use the battery packs.
Yeah, the battery is the thing for me as well. I prefer the normal Pro size, and I bought that last year, and then I went on a trip to London, or Bristol actually, and the battery was terrible when you're away from home all day and not in your normal situation. So went back to the Pro Max. I'm
definitely going to go back to the Pro Max size this year. I didn't order one. I kind of knew I was getting review units, so I was just like, I'll just start off with that, and then I'll go get mine whenever it just wasn't a big deal. But I will definitely go back to the Pro Max, because the idea of having 33 hours of battery life, or whatever Apple says, it's never exactly what Apple says. I don't know about you guys, but I've never gotten the same Apple results that they get. I don't know how they test their batteries, but
do you not just watch videos offline all day?
30 hours straight. I mean, that's how you binge your TV,
Come on. All I want is an iPhone that I can take off the charger in the morning, and it gets me to the end of the day when I go to bed, and I can put it back on the charger. That's what I want. So the only iPhone that ever really did that for me, that I never really had battery issues, was the 11 Pro Max. That one, I think, had a killer battery in it.
The 15 gets really hot too. I'm really hoping they do a better job with thermal management, because especially in the summer, I mean, it's really hot here in North Carolina, and I'll be out, if I'm sitting outside and using my phone, the thing just heats up, and it starts throttling and dimming the screen. It's really bad.
100%. I feel like I am definitely someone who does not fall into the, this phone gets really hot, or my battery. I understand the other things it's doing, like when you're setting it up, but after a year with this phone, this is easily the hottest iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And I mean, I've been running the betas on it. Like right now, it's got the 18.1 Apple Intelligence beta on the 15 Pro, and it's just, that thing is, it's a thermal grenade. But
yeah, they always get hot when you do things like upgrade. But the thing with this phone was, even if I had a couple of apps to update and download from the App Store, even that would make it really hot. Anytime it was using the network, it would get very hot.
Well, when I was setting up the 16 Pro, the 16 Pro wasn't getting hot. The 15 Pro, when it was doing all the data transfer, was getting hot. So the 16 Pro was actually staying cool while it was downloading the data. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
I'm hoping that's the case and it wasn't just like throttling download speeds so it wouldn't get hot. I don't know. But I had a bunch of stuff happening at once. In fact, my carrier, I had this whole issue with my carrier. It was a disaster. I had to like call back multiple times and lie about what phone I was setting up because they were like, "Oh, you can't be setting up a 16 Pro. Like that's not out yet." And I'm like, "I know it's not, but I still have one." Like,
oh yeah, you're breaking the support.
They were so confused. They were absolutely because what ended up happening is when I went to transfer the eSIM, it got deleted off my old phone, but it didn't get transferred over to my new one. And so when I logged into their app to download it, it asked for an SMS verification code, which is stupid because how can I get an SMS verification code when I don't have a SIM? It was a whole nightmare. But my original plan was actually to set up the 16 Plus as my main phone, and I found a weird support document. And the reason why I was going to do this is I found this weird support document that said the 16 Plus was going to be able to take raw photos. And I swear I can send it to you guys right now so you guys can make sure I'm not going crazy. But there is a Apple support document that basically talks about taking pro raw photos, and it has a supported device. And it says 16 and 16 Plus on there. And so I saw that before I got everything. So I went to set up the 16 Plus. That is not there. You go to the compare page, it is not there. So Apple's documentation is not lined up. I found an issue with it. So that's actually the big thing that prevented me from using the 16 Plus instead of the going the Pro line, because I thought it might be interesting to focus on the Plus, the regular phones, because that's what most people get. Most people don't go the Pro route. Most people go the regular route. I thought it might be interesting to make some videos on that. But I take so many photos. I love having the raw capability because I don't just take the photos, I also edit the photos. And editing with a raw photo is so, you just get more detail. There's more data. You can recover highlights, recover shadows. You can do so much with that as opposed to just a flat JPEG image. And I know there are people furiously typing, what about ProMotion? That's actually not that big of a deal to me. I don't really notice it that much on the iPhone, except when I'm scrolling really fast through like an article or a web page or something like that. That's the only time I really notice it. But I'm curious about you guys. Would you ever consider going back to the regular iPhone, or are you just like, nope, give me the best of the best, always and forever?
Yeah, I've considered it, but I don't think I would probably do it, and mainly because of the camera and the usual, advantages to the camera, because I like taking a lot of pictures myself. And yeah, I mean, there's always one or two things. I don't know that ProMotion, I think I could probably live without ProMotion myself, especially on a phone. Maybe not so much on an iPad, but on a phone, I think I could probably live without it. But the camera is really what clinches it for me every time.
Yeah. I like having the better camera. But for me, it's actually the opposite. ProMotion is the deal breaker for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Whenever I'm at 60 hertz, it just bothers me. It's a curse. But yeah, it's a bummer. Every year I'm like, ooh, I maybe don't need the Pro this year, and then I remember ProMotion, and then I get the Pro.
Yeah. The other thing too that I thought I would miss was the always on screen. That actually doesn't bother me as much, mostly because I think I'm wearing an Apple Watch. So like I get my notifications, I can see my notifications there. It doesn't always buzz, but I can go into Notification Center. But I have my notifications so trimmed down, like we talked about in our notification episode, that like there's not actually a lot of stuff that pops up on the screen. So I mostly just use it for the time, and I usually either have my iPad or my Apple Watch or whatever. So that's really not that big of a deal. But the big thing for this line of iPhones, and I was honestly kind of surprised it came to the regular phone as well, but is the new camera control button. And it's actually really cool. I like it a lot. It takes some getting used to because there's different. So it's a physical button. It is a physical button. Like if you turn off your phone, you can still click the button. It is not like the Magic Keyboard where if you turn it off, nothing clicks. Like it is absolutely a physical button. But then there's also this like soft touch button to switch between the functions, and that took a long time to get used to. I have a ton of accidental photos right now in my library trying to figure out like, okay, how do you turn on the function, get to the functions and stuff like that. And you can change how much pressure you need to do because you're not clicking it, you're just putting your finger on it to do it. And you can go into accessibility, camera capture, and change those settings to like either be more force or less force if you want. But it's really nice. Right now I just have it set up with the default camera app because I want to try all those functions and stuff like that. But I'm eventually going to swap it over to opening up Halide because I really love it. I cannot underscore Halide's new Process Zero filtering. So it's for those that don't know, it's not AI filtering like every other camera capture thing is doing. It is just kind of applying this very light film-like filter on top of it, kind of like photographic styles essentially, but it does get baked into the image. So, but it looks really nice for just like a quick capture, and if you're not going to edit a photo or something like that, it's really nice. I love it so much. But yeah, the camera control is really cool. Do you guys have any questions on that before I got a couple other things?
I have so many questions.
Okay.
This is the thing that confused me when they announced the phone, is opening the camera app with the button. Awesome. The action button's been doing that for me for a year. I love it. Taking the photo with the button. Awesome. The action button does that as well. But this is like more tuned to that and is in a more kind of like traditional camera position. Does it feel better using the extra controls you were talking about, like changing settings for like zoom, for example? To me, it seemed like a more fiddly and less convenient way to do it than using the on-screen controls or pinch to zoom, or like it seemed like a workaround for someone who didn't have a touch screen to work with, if that makes sense. Like it seems like the sort of thing you would do if all you had was a button to interact with, kind of like a touch bar with no touchscreen. But if you have a touchscreen, it seemed easier to do everything on that. So I'm curious what your first impressions are of those additional functions.
Yes, it is. Okay, so almost 24 hours into it, minus sleep, it is very fiddly. It takes a lot. It takes understanding how much pressure to put on the capture button in order to enable it, and then how to slide between them, because if you slide too quickly, you're just going to zoom right past what you need. And then to select something, it kind of breaks your brain a little bit, because to select something, you're not pushing the capture button again, because if you do, you're going to take a photo. You just put your finger on it and apply a little bit of pressure to select something. So it's breaking my brain a little bit right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's bad because I haven't had it for very long.
Yeah, you might get used to it, but it does strike me as the kind of thing that could distract from actually taking the picture. I mean, instead of actually framing your shot, and you're going to end up fiddling with these controls and kind of losing your focus on what you're doing.
See, I think of it as I framed my shot, but I need to change something really quick. So instead of moving the phone or something so I can tap on the screen, I have my finger right there, and I can change it. That's kind of how I've been thinking of it. Like, it's not the primary place I would set up, like pick the lens or pick the f-stop or any of that stuff. It's where I'd be like, okay, I've already got this set up. I don't want to change the framing here, so I'm just going to move my finger on it. The one thing I will say is I think it's up too far. I think it's too hard. I have big hands, and like if you're holding your phone, if you're watching the video version, I'm holding my phone up. If you're holding your phone, my pointer finger barely gets to like halfway through to the capture button.
Yeah, it looks like it's about a third of the way from the bottom.
Yeah, and that's about exactly where it is. It's about a third of the way from the bottom, and I think they should have moved it down just a little bit more. That's probably easier said than done, but I just it's kind of at a weird spot. Like if you're just like holding your phone and not trying to cover the screen, like if you're just holding your phone to take a photo.
Is it more comfortable in like vertical? Because I know it's meant to be used in both orientations. It might be weird if it was like all the way at the bottom if you're holding it in portrait.
I think that's probably what it is. Is it a
compromise?
It's designed for vertical because people take photos in the wrong orientation now. Hot take. Hot take.
Talk about people writing emails. Boy, Chris.
Oh, man.
And vertical video is bad. Vertical video is very bad.
It's okay. It's okay. You know, I'm older than you. I can handle vertical video. It's all right.
My problem is I went to film school, so my film school background is like, no. It's Matt and I fight over frame rates all the time because of this as well. But yeah, I like the capture button. I think it's going to take a little bit of getting used to. My plan is someday this coming week, I'm just going to go up to Yosemite, spend a day taking a bunch of photos, and just try and live off the capture button, like swapping settings and stuff like that.
It's a good idea.
And we'll see how it is. That way I have really nice photos for my review and something else that might be coming up.
I did have one more question actually about the capture button.
Okay.
Are you able, maybe you haven't checked this yet, are you able to turn off those additional features? So if you want to like never accidentally trigger them and you just wanted to use it as a shutter button, is that possible?
I believe so.
I think you can. I think I read that just the other day. I'm slowly catching up on all the stuff I missed this week from a review week. But I
slightly
think I
busy
read
week,
that.
huh?
Yeah, it's been a busy week. But I think I saw that somewhere.
Yeah, so you can. So it's called so the light press camera control to quickly make adjustments. Double light press to select control. Oh yeah, so you can turn that off. It's called Clean Preview, which is an interesting name. But yeah, you can turn that off. And you can also set it up so that it requires a double click to open whatever camera or capture app that you have assigned to it. Just off my phone, there's already like Halide, Obscura, Instagram, Magnifier, and the code scanner. So along with the built-in camera app, of course. Or you can just set it to none and have that button just do nothing. But that kind of seems like a waste. That's like all the people that did that with the action button. I'm like, at least just have it open the camera app. But yeah. The other big change to this phone that is this line of Pro phones is the screen got a little bit bigger. I believe it's 0.2 inches on both of them. Is that right? Do you guys know if I believe that's correct off the top of my head. I didn't write that down. So from what I understand, the way they were able to do this is the footprint of the phone grew very slightly. It's really not that noticeable. I took the 15 Pro and the 16 Pro and put them right next to each other, and you can kind of see the difference, but really it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But the bezels noticeably shrank on the Pro line of phones, not the regular line, but the Pro line of phones. And it is very noticeable how slim the bezel is now. Like they are getting to the point where there is almost no bezel whatsoever. But I will say the screen size increase is actually noticeable. Like I had the 15 Pro in my hand and I was like, wait, is this the plus one for a second? Like I kind of just like blanked because I could tell it's bigger. I put the 15 Pro and the 16 Pro next to each other, and there was a little bit more content that was able to go on the screen. Not a ton, it wasn't wild, but like a little bit more fit on the screen. To me, it was just a little bit more comfortable to read on this. Now, normally I am a Pro Max person, but I spent the last year on the regular 15 Pro, and I'm just like itching to go back to the big phone because I like to be able to, like, I'll read a book on the Pro Max size.
Right.
But the Pro is just a little too small for that. Like even reading, like even going through like my RSS reader and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I was going to say for me, I talked about this a little bit on MacStories Unwind last week. I think I've squeezed out the iPad mini from my life as much as I like it, because between the iPhone Pro Max, which I will set up later today, and the 11-inch iPad Pro, I feel like I've kind of squeezed out that middle size because in a lot of situations, the 11-inch iPad Pro is perfectly fine for reading, watching video, whatever it happens to be. And the phone has grown enough that it's filling a lot of those lying in bed reading articles or something, situations that I would use the mini for.
Yeah. Exactly the same thing happened to me. Is my wife got a new iPad earlier this summer and she gave me her old mini, and that was my only iPad for a while, but I was just like using it like it's hardly any bigger than my phone.
Right.
And it has a worse screen and all those things. So yeah, it kind of wedged itself out of my life as well.
And especially with these bigger phones, like it's really nice. Like I'll do my reading on it, but I also keep the Backbone controller in my nightstand next to my bed. So like last night I went to bed, but I wasn't ready to go to sleep. So I grabbed the Backbone controller and I played a little bit of Super Mario World on it. And it was great. Like the screen size, a little bit bigger, enjoyable, worked perfectly. I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad the phones are getting bigger. I know not everyone is in that same camp, but the bigger screen is like I said, the bigger screen on this one is noticeable, and it's nice. It's a nice improvement without increasing the footprint of the actual size. Like I don't feel like I'm holding a much bigger phone. I just feel like I have a bigger screen, which I think everyone could be happy with.
I don't hate it. Yeah, I think my ideal phone is like 6.5 inches, so.
Which Apple doesn't make.
Which they don't make. I'm constantly stuck between two worlds.
So, John, you have something for us, and I'm very excited about this because we don't know what this is. Normally, sometimes we'll fill out the show docs when we do this show. Sometimes we keep things a surprise, and this is a surprise, so I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, I thought I would surprise you guys with some new hardware that I've been testing for about a week. And I think both of you have used the Stream Deck before, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a brand new entrant into that sort of realm. It is made by Logitech, and it is called the Logitech MX Creative Console, okay? And this is only half of it. What you're seeing here is it's a 9-button pad with paging buttons at the bottom, so you can put together, multiple pages of buttons, very much the way you would with a Stream Deck. And it's wired. The second device, though, that comes in the pair is this. This is their dial pad.
Ooh.
And the dial pad is a big knob and 4 buttons plus a wheel a jog wheel, so you can use it to, like scroll things. And these are really nice. You might have remembered that Loop Deck got purchased by Logitech late last year. This is the successor to the Loop Deck. The Loop Deck, they're still supporting the Loop Deck going forward for people who already own that. I actually use one myself, but they've basically taken the technology behind the Loop Deck and they've incorporated it into their own Stream Deck-like pad. And so it does a lot of the same stuff that you would expect a Stream Deck to do. You can take these buttons and you can program them, to do keyboard shortcuts or macros or all sorts of different things. There's a plug-in system, which is something that the Loop Deck had too. Logitech has partnered with Adobe, and they're bundling 3 months of Creative Cloud with this device. It's $200, and it's going to start shipping in October. And it was announced on the 24th, so a couple of days ago as we released this episode. But I've already started putting all kinds of things on here. I've got like a button for the app dropover. So if I'm in the Finder, I just hit a button and the file goes straight to the shelf and I can drag it into an email or whatever really easily. I've got things for, managing my windows, moving things to the left and right. I've got other ones for taking screenshots or getting the emoji picker up. That, the same kind of stuff you would do with the Stream Deck. It works with shortcuts. It works with all kinds of different system settings that they've got baked into it. And I kind of like that this dial pad is like a separate device, because this actually runs on batteries, old-fashioned batteries.
Huh.
Because I guess the way it was explained to me when I did a briefing on this was that the pad with the buttons, the 9-button pad, it because those are LCD screens underneath each of the buttons, just like in a Stream Deck, you need to have that wired because it would only last like a day or something in terms of battery life if you had a rechargeable battery. And they went with alkaline batteries for the dial pad because they last so much longer. I've seen Logitech starting to do this. I think they did some study about the environmental impact, and actually there was a lesser impact using old-fashioned batteries for something like this because it lasts so long that you're not going through batteries very quickly. And what's really neat about it is it's like a lot of Logitech stuff. You can pair this dial pad with multiple devices. So you could pair it with a laptop and a desktop, all that kind of stuff. And with a dial, you can obviously do things like adjust settings for photo apps or video editing apps because it's great with sliders. You can use the jog wheel for scrolling through documents. The buttons on here, by default, they're set to undo and redo. And then the bottom ones, one of them's escape, and the other one does this thing. Logitech's doing this thing called Action. I don't know if you've seen this. It's in beta, where you can do a mouse click or a button click on your Logitech mouse, and it brings up a menu of things that you can do that's programmable. It's very similar to what these hardware devices do, but it's in software. That's kind of part of their thing that they have with the AI prompts you can do through your Logitech mice now, which I think is a little silly, but you can also trigger that through this dial pad. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's nice that I think it's kind of neat that it's separate because you can do things like press a button on the pad, and then the pad will then communicate with the dial pad so that you might, you hit something, one of the buttons, and it might be for brightness on your screen. And then that tells the dial pad that that's been activated. So you can use the knob to dial in the brightness of your screen or something like that.
That's pretty cool. So with the Adobe stuff that's built into it, like, do they have like a bunch of presets? Like, if I opened up Lightroom, does everything shift over to a bunch of Lightroom controls and stuff like that?
They do. They have a plugin system. They've been working with Adobe and their APIs to get those like customized for that, and it's already set up for a bunch of the Creative Suite apps like Premiere and Lightroom and other ones. And that's probably like the thing that would use it for the least personally, just because I use it more with like shortcuts or with other productivity apps. But it is really designed first and foremost to be built for using Adobe's apps and other things. And, Loopdeck was already working on a lot of that. They already had a marketplace, and this has like a marketplace for users to submit profiles and plugins and things, and other companies to do it. So they're going to have things like OBS. I know they have already built into it like VLC and other apps that have various, functionality built into it. But so far, I've been mostly using it to program in shortcuts, both keyboard shortcuts and shortcuts. And it's been nice. It's not a lot different than a Stream Deck. It's the thing that's different, I guess, is these buttons. I like them a little better. Logitech, obviously makes keyboards. They've done a nice job making some nice clicky keys here. One thing I don't like about the Stream Deck is I don't like how concave the buttons are because it kind of distorts the images below them. They've done a little better job with that here. There are lips on the edge of these buttons that give you the tactile feel where you can like if you're streaming, if you're a streamer on Twitch or something, you can feel which button you're on. But at the same time, it's not distorting the icons underneath.
That's nice. Yeah, that's something I didn't care for about the Stream Deck is especially as a mechanical keyboard nerd, the Stream Deck buttons feel mushy.
They're very mushy.
Yeah, you guys remember the people that would put like those plastic covers on top of their laptop keyboards to keep out crumbs and stuff like that?
Yes.
That's what it always reminded me of.
Yeah, It's a little like that. I always have felt like the Stream Deck is, I like a lot of Elgato's hardware, but I feel like the Stream Deck is one of the more plasticky feeling devices. Yeah. And maybe that's not true with some of the most recent ones that have been released. I have not tried like the Neo line or some of the very recent ones, but the last one I had was kind of, it's just it just wasn't as nicely built. It didn't feel premium to me.
how is the shortcut support with the Logitech one? So I haven't used a Stream Deck in years, but when I did use a Stream Deck a few years ago, it was a third-party, like, independent creator made a shortcuts plugin for the Stream Deck, and it was very buggy. Like, it was much better to create, if I remember right, in shortcuts to basically make a shortcut its own app and then assign that app to the Stream Deck button.
Yeah, you kind of have to do that with Logitechs too.
Okay.
I just assign a keyboard shortcut to it. Usually what I do, because I use Raycast, is I just assign whatever I want a shortcut in Raycast, and then I use that to trigger to the Logitech a lot of times. So
I forgot you Mac people have the ability to assign keyboard shortcuts to shortcuts.
Yes, we do, and that gets you around a lot of that stuff. You don't have to worry about it as much.
Sad panda.
It's a great platform.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty cool. This is something I really want to use a Stream Deck or something like that again with my iPad. And I know Stream Deck announced like they were doing something for the iPad, but
they're creating an API, but it's going to require developers to actually adopt it, which I'm not sure they're actually going to do.
No developer is going to do that for weird, very specific third-party hardware. Yeah, I could see maybe like Procreate doing that for like, oh, you can quickly, assign brushes or something like that. But I couldn't see something like Things doing that for like giving you a new task button that you could just hit and just wherever you are in the OS, it'll jump to Things and open up the new task or something like that.
One advantage this one might have. I mean, I know that Stream Deck, Elgato makes the Mini, which is a very small device, but the fact that this is separated into two parts means you can take this little guy with you in your bag pretty easily, whereas I never did that with my Stream Deck because I had a large one and it was too big. And that's one of the things I don't like about having these kind of peripherals is that I don't want to feel like I have to take another thing with me in my bag. If I get used to using it at my desk, what am I going to do when I go down to the coffee shop with my laptop? I'm going to fall back on keyboard shortcuts. And then that's just I'd like to have more consistency than that. And this I could see though. This I could actually see unplugging it and throwing it in a bag and bringing it along because it's pretty lightweight. It has a little stand you can put it in. I've just got it lying flat on the desk, but it's got a thing that props it up too.
That's pretty nice. Pretty cool.
Comes in light gray and black.
Ooh, black. Always black.
I got the light gray one. They sent me the light gray one.
Yeah.
That's the right one to get.
Companies never want to send the black stuff anymore. They always want to send the color stuff. And I'm like, no, send me black. All right. Anything else on that before we move on to the challenge?
You guys answered all of my questions. My biggest thing with the Stream Deck is, the mushiness. And I tried to replace it with a, I forget what they're called, but like one of those tiny little programmable, just literal mechanical keyboard things.
Oh yeah, I have a couple of those. I like those.
I like them, but then I miss the screens because I tell myself I'll remember what I've assigned each button to, and then I forget. And
the thing with Loop Deck is that they tried to do it with haptics. They used just screens, and they had haptic feedback, but their haptics weren't very good. And so I think that's kind of the interesting thing is that now that they joined Logitech, they've moved to using physical buttons, but using the same tech beneath. The software layer is basically the Loop Deck layer because of course you have to use Logitech Options Plus to program this thing, which I'm sorry because it's not a very good app. Neither is Elgato's Stream Deck app for that matter.
Yeah,
but
Elgato's is shocking.
Yeah. But Options Plus isn't great either. And when you move into to actually program this thing, it jumps into what is effectively the Loop Deck software because I still have the Loop Deck software, and so it's a little jarring because the UI hasn't been quite ported over to Logitech yet. Not that Logitech's is great either, but they're both uniquely bad in their own ways, I guess I'd say.
So, going back to what Matt was saying about the mechanical keyboard one. So I have an 8-button macro pad, and I keep it on my desk. And the nice thing about that is, and I'll get you a link for the show notes, Matt. This is the reminder to do that. But the nice thing about that is, so there's this web app called Via that you can program mechanical keyboards for. And you can assign them to do play pause or specific keys, but then you can also assign macros so you can do key combinations. And the nice thing about that is you're doing it at the firmware level. So you're not having to install third-party software that handles like what button press are doing what and mapping things here and there. It's on the firmware of the actual device, which means it works with the iPad.
Oh, very nice.
Chris, there is one detail of software you do have to install for Via to work.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Chrome.
Yes, Chrome.
I
have a paper cut for Sequoia that I want to share with you guys.
Okay.
Oh, please.
You know the new window tiling thing?
Yes.
In Sequoia. It's pretty nice. It's very basic, but if you don't need anything more than that, it's totally fine. And I generally am not like a hyper programming of my windows, so it's fine with me. The thing I don't like is that the keyboard shortcuts use the globe key, and you can't program the globe key. The globe key is a proprietary key that there's no code for, so you cannot use it with AppleScript. You can't use it with anything, so there's no way to program that. So when I did my window management stuff on this Logitech device, I ended up using Raycast's window management because that's just using regular modifier keys.
Yep, that globe key is the bane of my existence because for some reason, certain key, even though if you plug a hardware keyboard into an iPad, and I believe you can do this on the Mac too, you can map something like caps lock to be the globe key. So if you have a third-party keyboard that doesn't have the globe key, you can map
that you
it to
can
it.
do, yes.
But some mechanical keyboards, for some reason, when they get unplugged and plugged back in, that resets every single time.
Oh, yeah.
And it has been like that for years. But yeah, that globe key, I hate that globe key so much because it's proprietary. It's not open. Even Via, like there's not even an option in Via when setting up a mechanical keyboard to say, hey, this keyboard is the globe key for Apple keyboards. Like they can't even do it. So
yeah, no, it's the effing key. It's right on there, the effing key.
Yeah, but it doesn't quite work the same for some reason. I don't know. I've had issues
got a
with
much less
Via
cool name too.
Yeah. that key. Alrighty, let's get to the challenge, Matt. It was your challenge this week.
Oh boy,
what did you have us do?
So I didn't think this was going to be as hard as it was. My challenge was to have us use a major company's service in an unofficial way that they don't necessarily endorse, or it's not using the software the way normal people would. This was tricky.
It was hard.
This was hands down the hardest challenge we've ever done. I was cursing your name several times this week.
I texted Chris. I was like, what does he mean? What is this?
Oh no.
Yeah. Like I'm just like I was just like, okay, what I tried several different things and they all started to fall apart because things are getting locked down more and more and more.
Yeah.
So it's just like
this was the thing I was thinking. So like an example of this I was thinking of, and I probably should have shared this last week and not now, is like there's that Play app for iOS for watching YouTube, for like saving YouTube videos to like a special watch later thing, and you watch in the app and you don't use YouTube's app at all. That was the idea.
Yeah.
Finding a second option was tricky though.
I came up with two. Well, we usually have the challengee go last, so I can go first, or John, if you'd like to go first, you can.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go first. I'm going to channel Niléane on this because I know that she uses this too. And what I did for the challenge was I've brought something that I've been doing for a while, which is using Tailscale to watch video streaming services when I'm away from home, because more and more often video streaming companies like Hulu and others have locked down their services. So they're checking what IP address you're at, and they're trying to figure out, is your billing address, are you on an IP address that's basically in the same region as your billing address, so that they can, if you're away, they'll shut the service off. Now, some of them have, a week or two grace period or whatever it happens to be, but that's been more and more restricted over time. And Tailscale is a very hard service to describe. It's a little bit like a VPN. What you're doing is setting up a network of devices that is super simple in the sense that you don't even need to know IP addresses. You can give them nicknames, named after your devices or whatever. And it creates a peer-to-peer network between everything so that, and it does even more than that. It allows you to set up something called an exit node. And this is the key to the video streaming thing that I did, because an exit node tells your other devices to send all the traffic through that device. So I can say on my phone, and I'm, maybe in another state on vacation, I can say, use my Mac Studio, which is sitting back at my house in North Carolina, always on, connected to, 2.5 gigabits per second internet, send all my traffic straight through that thing. So no matter how far away I am, I can send Hulu or Disney or Netflix or whatever through my home network and back to my iPhone. And because it's peer-to-peer, it really isn't a problem. And the other thing about video streaming services is that they're built to be resilient to bad connections because they buffer. So, it's not like, it's harder if you're doing something like trying to do a video game where you've got more of a real-time situation where lag makes a big difference. But a little bit of lag isn't going to break a situation like this. So with Tailscale, you just basically, you install a small app on your Mac, and then they have apps for the iPhone, they have Android apps, they've got Windows apps, Linux, they've got everything. And then on the Mac, it runs in your menu bar. And when you click on it, like if I click on mine right now, I see all the devices I have. And I've got a bunch of devices on here. I've got, my laptop, I've got my phone, I've got my iPad, I've got my Legion Go, which is a Windows device. I've got a Books Palma, which is an Android e-reader, all these things connected to it. And so when I'm away, if I need to use my home network instead of whatever network I'm on while I'm away, I simply go in there and I assign my network to run my exit node. And that's about all it takes. And once I do that, I'm good to go and I can watch my videos from far away.
I like this because it's not pirating. You're just using a service that you pay for that, they're restricting it because they don't want people sharing logins, which whatever,
I'm not even sure it's like breaking terms of service, really, because what I'm doing is, you're right. I mean, I'm paying for a service I already have. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not using it in the location they want me to use it in, but as far as piracy goes, I don't think that really rises to the level of
You're following the spirit
being a bad person. Yes. Right. It's not like I'm sure. It's not like I'm sharing it with Chris or something, and saying,
exactly.
Join my exit node. But yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. No, you could. I was, but no, I think this is something I would totally set up on my Mac Mini for exactly the same reasons you do. Like, I'll travel, and then all of a sudden, you get the thing on Hulu and says, "Oh, you've been out of the area for a week or whatever. You need to go back," and it's like, I'm halfway across the country. I can't right now. And I'm paying for this service. I want to use it. So I like this a lot.
My bonus tip that's not really part of the challenge is that this is a lot like having AirDrop that's cross-platform, because one of the things that I can do then is I can take on my Mac, I can take ROMs for games that I'm playing, retro games that I'm playing, and I can send them to my Windows PC, or I can send them to an Android device, and it just shows up in the download folder on that device. And it's because it's peer-to-peer, it's almost instantaneous. It's very, very fast.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I did too, and I don't really feel like either fulfilled the full challenge of find a major company service. But these were two experiments that I would just playing around with, and they worked out. I actually tried a couple of other things that I just couldn't get to work, including trying to get RetroArch to sync all of my games via a NAS with save files and all that stuff, which
stuff's hard. You need to talk to Tichy.
Yeah, that was something I was like, oh man, I would love this because, and then I could even combine it with Tailscale, like you said, and like when I'm traveling, because like what I want to do, and I need to get it to work. I know I can get it to work. I just need to spend some time doing it. Yeah. I want to have all my ROMs on my iPad, my iPhone, and my Legion Go. with all the save data. So no matter where I am, what device I have, I can pick it up and just keep playing the game that I was playing no matter what. But it's not exactly the easiest thing, and I ran out of time this week to make it work. So I did 2 different things. The first is what I'm calling a digital record player, which is not really a record player at all. But I have this old iPad. I think it's like a 9th gen iPad because it's before they did the redesign. That just sits in a drawer, and I use it for weird experiments like this all the time. Now, the nice benefit about this one is it has line out, but I actually didn't end up using it for this. What I did is I set up the app Long Play, which Niléane reminded me about when we did our home screen challenge. And basically what Long Play is it takes all of your whole Apple Music library, but just gives you a grid of all the albums. And you can tap on an album and it starts playing. And I set it up with an audio interface, and I plugged in my big KRK studio monitors.
Nice.
And just like had a place to just, here's all my albums. You know, the screen doesn't lock. It just stays up. I can just scroll through it, find an album, hit it, starts playing. Kind of nice. It's in my office area right now. It takes up a lot of space, so I don't know if this will stay up. We actually have a really nice, proper record player set up in our living room that we use a lot. Like you can see, I've got a few records behind me, but we have a bunch in the living room as well. So that was kind of okay. It worked. It's cool, like if you are using something that, like if you're using a streaming service, like if all of your music is through a streaming service, but you really want like a nice place to like play music, this is the thing. The only thing that really worries me is having an iPad constantly plugged into power. Like that is the thing. Like I've done different experiments with this iPad where it's like been mounted on the wall or mounted underneath my desk, and it's constantly plugged into power, and I know that battery is going to expand one day. And that kind of worries me. So like if I leave the house or something like that, that's when it gets unplugged and locked. But I work from home. I don't leave the house that often. Any questions on that before I move on to the other one that I like a little bit more?
No, I'm really intrigued by this next one.
Okay. So I put out a Obsidian video a few weeks ago, and I heard from a viewer about a plugin called things-logbook. Now, what this does is it takes all the tasks that you have completed that day and syncs them to your daily note in Obsidian. Now, I use the daily note for a bunch of different things. Just keeping track of what I'm doing, journaling, a scratch pad to like paste links or phone numbers, or just kind of like a place like what a lot of people would just have a notebook on their desk for. That's kind of what I just use this for. The issue with this plugin, though, is it's a Mac-only plugin, and as the iPad person, didn't really work for me. So what I did is I actually went ahead and installed Things and Obsidian on my Mac Mini and set it up so that they're always open, they're just always in the background, and this plugin just constantly syncs. It constantly looks to see, did you complete something in Things? If so, it takes that task and it shows it as completed in your Obsidian daily note, which is really nice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, that's one of the things that I like using a Mac server for, whether it's my desktop or a Mac Mini that I have in a closet at home. It's just being able to install stuff and have it go in the background.
Yeah, it's really nice. I that's one of the things like I was kind of excited about to get the Mac Mini for again. So I bought it so we could do the video part of this podcast, but I just have it up all the time, just kind of doing background tasks and stuff like that. It does some folder syncing and stuff like that, but with my NAS, it like syncs some. I have like a photo library folder. I have a thumbnail folder, and there's one more that I have set up, and it's blanking. But like it just syncs back and forth, and it does a really great job of making sure like moving data. I'm saying sync, but really it's just using Hazel to move files and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a really cool plugin. I assume the reason why it's Mac only or it's not on mobile. It probably, Things isn't on Windows, so yeah, I guess it would just be Mac only. Is that it's constantly syncing between the two apps, so it's probably not sandboxed in some ways because it has to pull that data from things somehow, so it wouldn't work on iOS and iPadOS. So yeah, you have to have a Mac in order to use this.
Yeah, Obsidian's the Wild West. You can do anything with Obsidian, really. I mean, it's kind of amazing what you can do. Let me ask you this: do you know if this requires using a daily note? Could you sync this to like a single file and just have like date entries in it or something?
That is a good question. Let me look here really quick. But I think it's specifically designed for daily notes.
A lot of things are. I'm not a daily notes person.
Yeah, me neither. But I do like having, every once in a while, it's useful for me to be able to look back on when I completed a task 6 months ago.
Yes, absolutely.
And
that's why I was thinking about this. If I could do just one long text document, it'd be kind of interesting to do that. I use a system that's more like a weekly note where I just put in like the days of the week and I use it as a scratch pad and kind of here's the 5 things that no matter what happens, I have to get done, that kind of list. But I don't do it on a daily basis.
Yeah, I don't see a way to assign it to a different note. I think it is just for daily notes.
Okay.
Might be worth a look, though. Because, again, with Obsidian, all things are possible. So there might be a way to
I know somebody I might be able to get to build it for me, too. So.
Okay. Yeah.
we always have our special projects unit over at MacStories. So,
and this is probably open source, like a lot of Obsidian plugins are. So you could probably just build off of the work that's already been done. The one thing I will say is this doesn't just start with the day that you install the plugin. It starts, it goes back. So like this literally created so for day, like it literally went back before I even started using Obsidian because I've been using things for a lot longer than Obsidian, and created daily notes ever since like the oldest log history in things, and created daily notes for them. So my Obsidian library like jumped up 1,000 notes just or 1,000 documents just by installing this. So if you're trying to keep your Obsidian library like nice and slim, this probably isn't the plugin for you. That being said, Obsidian did just like do an update to make launching the app a lot faster. And I don't know about you guys, but it does seem significantly faster, especially on the iPhone.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely faster. I wish they would do more with their iPhone app and their iPad app too, but I think that's never going to happen, honestly.
Well, they are doing some stuff. I know I saw the CEO talk about it on like Mastodon or something. But one thing I know in the next update, and they've publicly talked about it, and it's in their like public test flight, is the next version of the iPhone app has like this nice card view for switching between tabs of notes, which is actually really exciting. I've been using that.
That is good.
Yeah, that was really good. So I'm hoping that's a sign that they're paying a little more attention to these, because
they do in spurts. Yeah. I mean, I think that they focus on the desktop because that I think is a lot closer in terms of the UI and everything across different platforms, whether you're on Windows or Mac or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty. All right, Matt, what do you got for us?
So I went with something task management-y. I used Good Task for a little bit to do task management. So Good Task is available on all of Apple's platforms and is basically a custom front end on reminders and Apple Calendar. So it's whenever you do a thing in the app, it's using whatever iOS SDK or APIs and SDKs to update reminders. So you can see all this in the reminders app. You can see all your calendars in the calendar app. But it's basically a custom UI on top of all of that. And I guess it's trying to be like the power user's version of reminders mostly. So in addition to just like making tasks, you can create templates if you make a similar type of task, or if you make a task that's due on a regular, like you tend to make tasks that are like 9 a.m. tomorrow, you can make a little button on the new task screen that like adds 9 a.m. tomorrow in a single tap. And the entire app is customizable. Like if I go into the settings page, there are a truly absurd number of things you can change in the app. Like there's like 15 menu items and each one has like 10 items in it to change. So you can really customize the look of it. You can customize the behavior of it. You can customize specific filters if you are the sort of person who like tags your tasks and has different areas of your life that you want to separate things out. You can do that. My reaction using it was actually, I think 10 years ago me would be all over this, and today me is just a simpler task manager, and I don't need all of these things anymore.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And the Apple app has gotten so much more things over the last few years that it feels, reminders used to feel like, I mean, it's there, but it's not that great. And now it's really good, actually. I think that was one of our first challenges on this show was to use Apple reminders for a week. And I think it went relatively well. Except for you, Chris, who I'm now remembering did not
that
go
one
great.
Killed me.
I'm just about to switch back to reminders again because I had to wait till I was done with my Sequoia review, but I want to get back and try it again with the new features that came out this year because I have used it on and off. I did go back to things primarily because of the shortcuts support, but there's a lot you can do with it, and Good Tasks is one that I have used in the past. We've written about it a bunch of times on MacStories between me and Federico because it, at one time, as you said, Matt, it was reminders was a simpler thing, and it served as like a database for this more complex layer on top where you could do all kinds of really cool stuff. And you can still do all that and more than the last time I used it. It has a really high learning curve because there's just so many settings in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it has that classic productivity app trap where you can spend more time setting it up and customizing it than actually using it to get your work done.
Right.
That was a big thing for me because I've used it in the past years and years ago, and I just felt like I was constantly spending more time trying to configure it to get it just right than actually just doing my work. And that's something I really like about Things is very opinionated. Not everyone likes it, but it's quick. I can get in. My big issue with reminders is how long it takes to add like metadata to certain things.
Yeah,
I know
that's true.
kind of cleaned up how to use like subtasks and stuff like that with iOS and iPadOS 18. Like you can kind of get to subtasks through your smart list now, but it's still not great. So I don't know, like reminders to me, like it's great if you're looking to get started with task management, but the minute you start to do project management is where reminders falls down. Once things start to become like a multi-step thing, that's where it falls down to me. Whereas like if it's just individual tasks, like go get the car washed, go grocery shopping, here's the items you need to have with a shared list with your partner or whatever, like that stuff's really nice. But the minute I'm like trying to juggle like multiple video projects and comfort zone and all that stuff in there, I'm just like, okay, this is it's just, it falls apart.
Yeah. I do like that Apple, for a lot of their things, they do enable developers to make apps like this. Like there's a number of custom Apple Music apps, like third-party Apple Music apps that can play your entire streaming library with custom interfaces. And you don't really get that with like, I don't think there's an app like Good Task for Todoist or anything. I don't think Todoist allows developers to do that sort of thing, like a full app replacement. And same with Spotify as well. So yeah, I just think it's cool that these things are available for people who want kind of that reliable back end of the Apple thing, but want more power or something more specific to their needs. So I think it's a pretty cool app. Not for me necessarily, but I mean, it's been around forever. So obviously it's working for some people.
Yep, definitely.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that is the challenge. We should let Niléane decide who wins this one, just to mix things up and just give her something to do this. I don't know.
She better vote for me because I used she's a Tailscale user too, so I think I've got the advantage.
Niléane, if you vote for me, I'll send you $20.
Oh, wow.
Yep, not a we fight dirty here.
Do we?
You're not a very high roller there, though, with $20. Come on, Chris.
$20 is $20.
I don't know if I can match that.
All right, so it is my challenge for the week, and I figured I'm gonna go kind of the opposite end of Matt and do something that's not completely impossible. I just want to do some iPhone photography for the week. do take some photos with your iPhone. Do it different styles. Use third-party apps. Edit them. Just let's talk about some iPhone photography. One thing I definitely get caught up in is because I have my fancy camera set up, I will go get that, even if we're just doing like a family photo or like an event or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I will go grab my fancy camera over using my iPhone, which I know is the total opposite of most people. But I love my fancy camera. I'm very fast with my fancy camera. And like my iPhone camera just becomes like, oh, hey, we're out at this thing and I didn't bring my camera, so that's when I'll use it kind of thing. So yeah, that's going to be the challenge for the week.
Nice. That's a fun one.
Yeah, I figured it might mix things up, make something a little more interesting. Plus, I have to work on my iPhone review units or my iPhone review videos, and this will help with that.
You're double dipping. You're double dipping.
Synergy. Yep. It's going to be a busy week, so I was like, how can I help myself with my own challenge?
Listen, I'm not above it. Keen subscribers to both Comfort Zone and my YouTube channel may have noticed topics on Comfort Zone be the very next video on YouTube. So it happens. That's fine.
There you go.
Believe me, I do that stuff all the time. That's every single podcast we do.
Well, and plus, like, I use it to promote the podcast in my videos and stuff like that, and vice versa.
Perfect.
But before we wrap up, John, do you have some stuff you want to promote to the people? I mean, we're a MacStories podcast, so I highly doubt there's anyone listening that hasn't heard of you, but I know you guys have had a lot of stuff going on, including the addition of NPC, but you have anything you want to promote out there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, we're just finishing, as we record this, we're finishing up the big review week because Apple dropped all the OSs on us on a single day, which is pretty unusual, actually. And thank goodness that I knew that I had a feeling that was going to happen, because typically I help out a lot with Federico's review, with some of the, like the ebook and a bunch of the other stuff that surrounds the actual review. And then I start writing my macOS review. This year wasn't like that. We were both working on them simultaneously. But if you haven't read them already, we have reviews of iOS and iPadOS 18 that Federico wrote. I wrote the Sequoia review. We had Devin Dundee, who did visionOS 2.0. I don't think a lot of people out there did visionOS reviews. And there's actually a lot of nice things in this update that makes the device a lot easier and nicer to use. So if you haven't checked out visionOS 2.0 yet, I would read that. Plus, Jonathan Reed did watchOS 11, which is a great update. I think in a lot of ways, to me, the watchOS review is the most interesting one because, we're stuck with iOS, iPadOS, and macOS waiting for Apple Intelligence, which is really like part 2 of the OSs, whereas watchOS, you get it all right away, which I think is really nice, and it's a refreshing thing. And then I guess I will even go out on a limb and I will recommend NPC Next Portable Console, our other new podcast on MacStories that started earlier this summer with Brendan Bigley, Federico, and me, that talks all about handheld gaming. We've been doing it for a while now. We have a really great episode coming out again next week, or actually it will have come out 2 days before this one is published. So go back and check that one out. And, it's every 2 weeks. So we'll be back again with another episode soon.
Nice. Well, yeah, NPC has definitely caused me to spend money, especially on the Legion Go. So,
Chris, in my view right now, I can see 5 retro handhelds and a Switch. So it's been a lot lately.
I'm not that far in, but I keep buying controllers and stuff to use with emulators on my iPad and iPhone, and it's been a whole thing.
Bonus pick. The Mopad. This is the one you want, the Mopad for the Switch.
Ooh, okay. Ordering
it just
now.
Came out. It's a really nice ergonomic controller. It replaces the Joy-Con.
I'm very excited for the rumored Switch 2 and the fact that it is getting bigger, because the Switch itself is too small for my hands.
Yeah, we talked about that on NPC this week.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that just about does it for this episode, but we always round out with what we call our dating question. So I got a question for you guys. What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends?
I guess for me, it's just getting out and getting around town, doing a nice long walk and enjoying this town, because we only moved here about 1.5 years ago and we're still learning the area. So I like to explore.
Nice. Matt, what about you?
I like to watch movies on the weekend.
and have terrible opinions about them.
Incredible
Horrible
opinions on movies.
opinions about them. Matt has the worst opinions about movies. He thinks Aliens, the second Alien movie, is bad, and is Prometheus is better.
No.
That's what he said. That's
absolutely a lie.
No. And I'm the editors.
I said it was very good, and that was sacrilege to Chris.
It is a perfect movie. It is good in every way. For me, I like to wash my car. I like to detail my car. I got a Mustang GT last year. It has kind of always been what I call my realistic dream car, and I love hand washing my car. That car will never, ever, as long as I own it, go through a car wash, or somebody else will wash it. I will always be the one that does it. So
nice.
That's kind of it. So
you don't use the rain to wash your car?
In fact, as soon as it's done raining, I'm usually right out there washing all the rainwater off. I'm like,
gotcha.
No, we don't want water spots on this thing.
Yeah, we're different people, Chris.
The same here.
I see it raining, I'm like, yes.
Oh, there's a big puddle. I go through the big puddle. That'll clean off all the dirt.
Okay. All right. We're wrapping up the show. All right. Thank you so much to everyone for listening and watching. If you don't know, there is a video version on YouTube. And a huge thank you to MacStories. We're a MacStories podcast after all. Thank you, John. You run it.
You guys do a great job. I love this show. So it's a lot of fun to be on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on. And thank you all for listening. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.